Here's the complete script in plain English, without headings or narrator labels. Some people don't cry because they are weak. They cry because they have been strong for far too long. Sometimes the person who smiles at you is carrying a pain so heavy that no one else can see it. But every once in a while, a stranger's kindness becomes the reason someone chooses to keep going. What would you do if a woman collapsed right in front of you and begged you with her last bit of strength, "Please, don't call my family"? That single sentence changed one father's life forever, and what happened next proved that kindness can heal wounds money never could. Before we begin, if stories about hope, compassion, and second chances touch your heart, please subscribe to Spread Kindness, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories that remind people goodness still exists in the world. Ethan Carter was a single father living in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. Every morning before sunrise, he opened the doors of Carter's Auto Repair, the little garage he had inherited from his late father. The shop wasn't fancy, but people trusted Ethan because he treated every customer with honesty. His 10-year-old daughter, Lily, often sat in the tiny office after school, doing homework while her dad fixed engines covered in grease. They didn't have much money, but they had each other, and that was enough. One rainy Thursday afternoon, business was slow. Ethan was finishing an oil change when he heard a loud crash outside. He rushed toward the parking lot and found a woman lying beside her car. She looked to be in her early 30s. Her clothes were expensive, but they were soaked from the rain. Her face was pale, and she was barely conscious. Ethan knelt beside her. "I'm calling 911, he said. She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "No," she whispered. "Please, don't call my family." Those words confused him. "Okay," he answered gently. "I won't call them. But I have to get you help." She nodded weakly before passing out. The ambulance arrived within minutes. Ethan rode with her because there was nobody else. At the hospital, doctors discovered she was suffering from severe exhaustion, dehydration, and dangerously low blood sugar. She had also been under extreme emotional stress. When she finally woke up the next morning, Ethan was sitting quietly in the waiting room. She looked surprised. "You stayed?" He smiled. "I figured nobody should wake up alone." Tears filled her eyes. "My name is Claire." "Ethan." She thanked him for respecting her request about not calling her family. After a long silence, she finally explained why. Claire came from one of the wealthiest families in the state. Her parents owned several successful companies. From the outside, everyone thought they were perfect. Inside the house, everything was different. Her life had always been controlled. Every decision, every friendship, every dream had been chosen by someone else. She wasn't allowed to make mistakes because mistakes embarrassed the family. Months earlier, she had refused an arranged business marriage that would have benefited the family company. Her parents cut her off financially and emotionally. They told everyone she had become unstable. She had spent weeks trying to build a life on her own. She was working 2 jobs while secretly living in her car because she refused to go back. "I wasn't running away from love," Claire whispered. "I was running away from control." Ethan didn't judge her. Instead, he simply asked, "Have you eaten today?" She laughed through her tears. "I honestly can't remember." That afternoon, Ethan brought her homemade chicken soup that Lily had insisted on helping prepare. When Claire tasted it, she smiled for the first time in weeks. "It's been years since someone cooked for me just because they cared." After leaving the hospital, Claire had nowhere to go. Ethan knew an elderly widow named Mrs. Dawson who rented a small furnished room to people in need. Without asking for anything in return, he spoke with Mrs. Dawson, who agreed to let Claire stay until she got back on her feet. Over the next several weeks, Claire slowly rebuilt her life. She found work at the town library. She spent weekends helping Lily with school projects and reading stories to children during library events. People who met Claire never guessed she had once lived in a mansion. She seemed happiest surrounded by ordinary people who accepted her without expecting anything. One afternoon Lily asked an innocent question. "Miss Claire, why doesn't your family ever visit?" Claire paused before answering. "Sometimes people share your last name but don't know your heart." Lily quietly hugged her. "You can borrow my family until yours gets better." Claire couldn't hold back her tears. Months passed. One morning, several expensive black SUVs stopped outside Ethan's garage. Men in business suits stepped out. A distinguished older couple followed behind them. Claire froze. Her parents had found her. Her father looked around at the small garage with visible disappointment. "So this is where you've been hiding?" Claire stood silently. Then Ethan walked beside her. Without raising his voice, he simply said, "She's not hiding anymore. She's healing." For the first time, someone had spoken for Claire without trying to control her. Her mother noticed Lily holding Claire's hand. The little girl smiled politely. "Miss Claire reads stories to kids and makes really good pancakes." The older woman's expression softened. She realized her daughter looked healthier than she had in years. Not because of wealth. Because of kindness. Claire's father remained stubborn at first. But after hearing from hospital staff, neighbors, Mrs. Dawson, and countless people whose lives Claire had touched through the library, something inside him finally broke. He quietly admitted he had spent years protecting the family name while forgetting to protect his own daughter. He apologized. Not with expensive gifts. Not with promises. Just honest words. Claire didn't forgive everything overnight. Healing rarely happens that way. But she allowed a conversation to begin. Months later, the Carter garage celebrated its 20th anniversary. Nearly the entire town attended. Claire stood beside Ethan and Lily, smiling as children laughed around them. She had started a community program providing books, meals, and emergency support for people escaping difficult family situations. The first donation came anonymously. Later everyone discovered it had come from Claire's parents. Not because they wanted attention. Because they had finally learned what their daughter had discovered months earlier inside a little auto repair shop. Kindness changes people in ways power never can. As the sun began to set, Lily looked at her father. "Dad? Yeah. I'm really glad you stopped working that day." Ethan smiled. "So am I. Because fixing cars had paid the bills. But stopping to help one stranger had repaired something much bigger than an engine. It had restored hope. Maybe someone around you is carrying a burden you cannot see. Maybe all they need is one person who chooses compassion instead of judgment, patience instead of assumptions, and kindness instead of fear. Never underestimate the difference a simple act of caring can make. Your kindness could become the turning point in someone else's story. And perhaps, one day, someone else's kindness will become the turning point in yours. Until then, keep choosing compassion, keep believing in goodness, and keep spreading kindness wherever life takes you.